How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance. and replicate it to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Water flow. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative.
Keep going, baby.
Recorders.
Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
Well, welcome to Transform 2022. This is the second day of the event, and it's the first virtual day. For those of you who came to yesterday's in-person event at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, thanks so much for attending. We recorded the majority of the content, which will be available on demand soon. And it was the first in-person Transform, can you believe it, since 2019. It was so great to be back. I'm Stuart Rogers. I'm the VentureBeat MC, former staff writer for VentureBeat, and also helped to run VentureBeat's research arm back in the day. We're going to get right into this. Look, we're excited to have over 3,000 attendees registered and joining virtually. So thank you to you all. And we've split this year's virtual event content into 6 days and 6 topics. Today's summit will cover data architecture. Of course, this event wouldn't be possible without you, but it wouldn't be possible without the tremendous support from all of our incredible sponsors. Thank you for supporting this great event and providing great content for our audience. This event is being hosted on an interactive platform where you can connect with other attendees. So what can you do? Well, you can create your own schedule by starring your must-attend sessions. Once you do this, you'll find them under My Interests, which you'll find right on top of the agenda. Meet other attendees using the network registration above. You can search through the full attendee list to chat to other attendees. You can visit sponsor profiles, and please do, through the sponsor navigation above, and check out all their latest content, launches, products. These wonderful companies have helped us to bring this all to you, so please go take a look. And the more sessions you view, the more sponsor profiles you check out, the more games you play, you're going to earn points for the leaderboard and get a chance to win some great prizes. Yep, we've gamified it. It's fantastic. And if you want to ask questions, remember to use the type chat box you'll find on the right-hand side of the session. If a speaker is available to answer questions, they'll be waiting for you so that they can respond via type chat. So don't be shy. Go ahead and ask some questions. And if you want more information on how to best utilize the platform, please check out the quick how-to video that you're going to find right in the agenda. We've got a live roundtable at 10:30 Pacific time, hosted by DataStax on the topic of architecting the right real-time technology stack. It should be a great live and lively discussion, so make sure you star that one for later today. You'll access the roundtable within the session module. All right, so now I know that the algorithms at places like TikTok and Instagram have changed so that you don't even have to use hashtags anymore to get to the For You page or to get lots of reach. But we want you to be the new trailblazers of bringing hashtags back. The official Transform hashtag is VBTransform. So join the conversation by using hashtag VBTransform anywhere that you can use hashtags, or tag us at VentureBeat. All right, let's get this virtual event officially kicked off. Click into the next session at 9 a.m. to hear Steve Wood from Slack and Lenore Elaine from VentureBeat, and they're going to talk about how to make work more human-centric. Welcome to the first session of the day, the Fireside Chat, how custom bot and workflows help Intuit and Canva employees work thousands of hours less, but much more productively, with Steve Wood, who is SVP Product Management from Slack, and Lenore Lane from VentureBeat. This is a great conversation about being more productive. The hours of work saved is frankly unbelievable. Over to you, Lenore and Steve.
Hello, welcome to Transform 2022. My name is Lenore Aline, Executive Editor at VentureBeat. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this fireside chat with Steve Wood of Slack. Steve, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about why we're here today.
Great, thanks, Lenore. Yeah, so I'm Steve Wood. I am the leader of the platform, developer platform side of Slack. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. So yeah, great to be here.
Awesome, nice to have you here. So set the stage for us. The experience of work has changed in the last few years, especially with the proliferation of data. Tell us about the current state of technologies and how that's impacting how employees get things done.
So I can talk a bit about that. Yeah, so at Slack, obviously, we spend a lot of time thinking about the future of work and the employee experience that comes with that. But as the platform person, I think a lot about how we bring our tools and how we use our tools and software on an everyday basis. And we're certainly tracking the fact that, employees are using a lot of technology in order to get their job done. And we see in enterprise, it's often 1,000+ pieces of software, kind of organizationally. But if you're like a marketing professional, you might use 20+ pieces of software just to get like a campaign out the door. So there's a lot of tools you're using. Slack is also introducing a bunch of tools to help people be more productive in the workplace. But when we look at the kind of tools that you're using and the kind of work you're doing inside of those tools, it's not just people that are vying for your attention who want to, ask you information, say like, hey, you've got a presentation coming up, can you help me out? But also these systems are vying for your attention too. Like Workday, for example, might be saying, hey, a new employee just started, do you want to help onboard them? Or Salesforce might be saying an opportunity closed, do you want to help them? So we call these things like events, which are like these business moments where things have changed. And it's like, you want to know about these changes because they often really help you make decisions more transparently. So you know that, hey, like this change, we've got a new employee on board, or we closed a new opportunity, which means I need to help, make sure the customer is successful and whatever it is. So we see a huge proliferation of data in all of these systems. We also see a huge proliferation from that of events, of all this data is changing all the time. And those changes often need people to be very aware of it. So our goal in Slack is to be that central nervous system to manage those events and help you be aware of them and then be coordinated and act as a team. And I thought I'd mention, because we're talking about customers in the summary, is like we also work, so for example, work with the HSBC Bank. And one of the great use cases they brought to us was when you can really get good at these events and really understand all the changes that are going on, and you can act more aligned and transparently in how you work, you can get a lot more done. So one of the things that they actually said was they brought all their tools together. So a lot of tools were saying like, hey, they're an IT team, so they're building new customer journeys like credit card onboarding or new loan origination, something like that. And they were typically releasing about 7 a year. And they actually brought that up to over 220 a year, just by knowing all the changes that were going on, so they could be much more coordinated in their work. So it's kind of like, if you can harness these events, we see sort of transformation in how you work and get things done. So, yeah.
So tell me, why do we need to improve? Those are really great examples that you brought in. So why do we need to improve, and what's the role of Slack? And, what role do you guys play in that?
Yeah, sure. So we see Slack as a place where people often do, good work. People spend a lot of time logged into Slack. In the industry, I'm actually a low code person in my background, and a lot of that is about empowering people to automate more work and use technology. And we've kind of seen there has been this trend of scaling humans, which is like, hey, how do we get more humans? Like say with a contact center, you got 5,000 people and you want to make sure they provide great consistent customer support. There's lots of great use cases there. We also see use cases where people are building bots to kind of deflect humans and say, hey, you don't need to speak to a human yet. We've all felt that, if you've ever been on a support site for, a product of some kind, they don't really want to talk to you. They kind of deflect you. But I think where Slack plays a role is not in there. It's actually in I've kind of maybe termed scaling the unscalable, which is to say we all have unique work. There are workers who all have unique work that's kind of specific to you or specific to your team. And how can we empower you, like literally you as a normal human being, if you like, just somebody who doesn't really know technology, that's what I mean by normal, is like kind of just to actually leverage technology to help you be more productive in your work. We feel that like that problem hasn't really been solved. And given that people do work inside of Slack, we think we have a unique opportunity to empower everybody. So we see, as I said, like Slack is the central nervous system of all these events flowing through. With these events, could we provide more automation to help you do work more productively? And actually, so I had an example. So I worked for the Chilean bank and this chief innovation officer, and he was rolling out all this like real-time technology, like for the bank. Like that, it was fantastic. He had like a data lake and streaming technologies and Kafka and streaming analytics, and everything was like, how do we make decisions faster? It was like the old bank is batch and the new bank is all real time. And they rolled out all of this technology to help speed up all of their systems, make decisions faster. They're sending emails out to everybody to say, hey, this has happened. There's been a compliance alert, and machine learning was looking at all this transactions and figure out fraud detection. Really incredible stuff. But what he realized is actually, without actually empowering the humans at the other end, he caused pure chaos. They were like, the speed at which we ramped up by moving to real time in the system side had a dramatic impact on the human side. Of like, how do we make decisions this fast? We don't know how to do it. So it was kind of interesting to see that transformation. So with Slack, we feel like we can be this engagement layer to help you rally all these events, marshal them, bring them together, and build automations and help you work more productively as, I say, just somebody in a compliance team who just needs to make sure that, transactions are happening the way they should. So we think we play a role there. The world is speeding up and Slack can help.
So you mentioned the engagement layer. When did Slack decide to fix this as a problem? And can you tell us about that process?
So I guess we always kind of knew that we played a role in that we've been this engagement layer. We have to talk about it as like a log of human events and things like that. So we know but obviously the last couple of years had a big impact in terms of how we thought about this. And really the last couple of years, one of the things that we saw was that IT went through a massive digital transformation, which was really about business continuity. It was like, how do we take our in-office workers and make them remote? It was a very kind of binary shift. And actually, Brett Tiller, who's the CEO of Salesforce, actually made a fantastic comment of like, those who didn't make that shift to digital probably aren't businesses anymore. And that's a big shift. Even the CEO of Slack, Stuart Butterfield, made this comment of like, his whole mindset shifted from like, I used to spend 80% of my time, my budget, thinking about my physical environments, and now I spend the actual inverse of that, thinking about my digital environments. So we started to think of ourselves as this digital HQ. We kind of came to that realization ourselves, like, hey, we're all hanging out in Slack. That's where we're all talking. That's where we're all working. And how can we play a role here in that? Yes, there's messaging, and yes, there's video, but there's a lot in between there, like to help with like automation, like, do you need a meeting? Can we do it asynchronously? So we built a bunch of tools to help our customers there to kind of help in this sort of this middle ground space. And actually, I think as we're now kind of returning back to the offices and we're thinking about this next transformation, I think it is a new transformation of like going to hybrid. And so we've thought a lot about that of like, actually the next area of innovation is how do you work in a hybrid environment? And so we've got some things we're doing in Future Forum and stuff like that to help to try to understand what hybrid work looks like. We hear a lot of people saying things like, hey, it's like 3 days in, 2 days out or whatever, but it's like, that's not really purposeful. It seems kind of like a low resolution way of thinking about hybrid work. So how do you think about like really a purposeful, thoughtful approach that empowers your teams to do the best work of their lives? And how do you design that hybrid environment? And I think a lot of that happens not at the org level. It's not like, hey, give you a laptop and a connection to Zoom or whatever it might be. It's actually what can you do at the individual team level? Like what works best for this team? What works for this best individual? And if we can help there with Slack and with the platform tools, and that's why we've really leaned into the empowerment side. So from a technology perspective, we actually decided to rewrite the platform as a result of this shift. And the way we rewrote it was to say, in order to empower our employees, our own employees, our customers' employees, was to say apps shouldn't be shrink wrap, like they're sort of dictated to you. They should be composable and reusable. So I can kind of go, hey, if I have an urgent request from a Zendesk ticket, can I automatically create a huddle in Slack and bring the team together and have Slack help me coordinate that work? Or, if I have an interview coming up, could it just send me the LinkedIn profile and maybe send a template doc of like the questions I might want to ask somebody? Can we just make work and life simpler and more productive using the tools that we provide, but also the tools that over 2,500 integrations or App Directory also provide to us too. And one story actually of empowerment, which I really liked, was Rasha, who is a very energetic customer experience manager. She built a bunch of tools just to help her small team do better in customer service. She's at T-Mobile. She does not identify as a technical person. She is not in any way technical. She's actually really amazed at what she's been able to do. And actually what she has done is super impressive. And actually has created big returns, not just for the team, but also in the employee experience. What I loved about her story of these kind of new customer experience automation she'd built inside of Slack was that she not only radically improved the customer experience, she actually radically improved the employee experience. So the employees that work for her are happier because they feel better in the work they do. So that's the kind of, I think that sort of speaks to, I guess, the problem that we're trying to fix, empowerment, that kind of thing.
So what I'm hearing you saying is, in aligning productivity and collaboration into data management, you're kind of helping organizations to apply this engagement layer mentality. So can you take that a little bit further? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so what we found with our customers when we looked at across the board is we're like, what were the things that, like how should they think about that as sort of engagement layer mentality, as you mentioned, was actually to look at the events inside of your business, like the stuff where it happens, it's a business moment, and managing it requires people. It requires some level of coordination and work. And that's where our customers see like tremendous value. So for example, with IBM, for example, they have the business moment for them is, hey, we've just hired a new salesperson. Okay, great. So what do we do to help onboard them? Well, actually, we have a whole bunch of best practices. And actually, that sometimes happens at a manager level or whatever. And so, like, there's certain pieces of guidance they might want, whatever it might be. So they can build these lightweight workflows, say, hey, new employees started. Let's get them some onboarding best practice sent to them immediately inside of Slack. And actually, they've said that they've seen a 33% improvement in productivity just from that. I mean, and we do that too, actually, at Slack. So we have a system, for example, when an opportunity closes, if it has a competitor, and it's a reasonably sized deal, we'll automatically prompt the salesperson to say, hey, could you just record a quick clip just to tell everybody what you did to close the deal? And it'll just be really helpful to share it. Then we can all know. And it's just really lightweight stuff. This doesn't need to be heavyweight. It's just team empowerment, user accessibility, that kind of stuff. We've seen the same with like Intuit and QuickBooks. They built a bot that's kind of helping answer questions for our agents who are helping customers. And again, like what I love is the mix of like, hey, yes, they resolve incidents more quickly. They save a bunch of time, like I think it's like 36% faster. They're saving like 9,000 hours annually of their employees working. But actually, again, it's like that human side of like their confidence increased. So they're actually saying they're 20% more confidence and their NPS scores went up by 12%. So like, it's not just about, can we scale humans? Can we make humans feel better about work, feel more empowered in their work? So I kind of love that aspect of what we're doing. Same with Box. They've done some stuff with MQLs. They reduced, that's a marketing qualified lead to signing a contract from 2 weeks to 2 days. And actually my favorite story, and I'm sure Bob Freddy wouldn't mind me saying this. So Bob Freddy is the CRO of Slack. And what I loved about his story was, so he had never built a workflow. So, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. He's never built any automation on Slack. So, tut, Bob. But he was looking at saying, well, hey, my sales team has grown actually tremendously. I need to understand like what confidence we have. What are the opportunities? What are the risks? What are the forecasts do we think we're going to get? And he'd periodically ask the team like, hey, like just give me a feel, like just so I can get a sense. More human than typing stuff into Salesforce specifically. He used to send out his messages in Slack, and I thought, we've gotten big enough now. Maybe I should build a workflow just to actually ask people. And then rather than me reviewing each message, I could just stick it into a Google Sheet. So he was like, okay, I think the platform is sufficiently easy, and this problem, I think I can probably do it. So he embarked on it himself and built this workflow. So now he collects all of the sales sort of updates on how confident they are. It's making their life easier. He built it in a matter of, I think he said it took him about 20 minutes just from start to finish. It radically improved his life. So anyway, it was great. So the way I see it is if our CRO can build something like this, then kind of anybody can do it. So sorry about that, Bob, if you're listening to this, but if he can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, that leads into the next question. What would you recommend for an organization that wants to incorporate automation into their processes but doesn't know where to start?
So we have this product principle at Slack called Prototype the Path. And I think that's actually a good principle, I think, for anybody looking at this, is that yes, there are projects where it's like, let's get the consultants out, let's do tons of planning, let's do a lot of upfront research and analysis. Where actually we think the real opportunity is just start small, and start building something quickly, prototype it, try to something quick. So for example, I have the pleasure and privilege of having an EA who helps me organize my calendar. And she said, look, Steve, you're pretty terrible at organizing your calendar, and you kind of helping me, you don't give me the right information all the time. So I was like, oh, I could help her. I could just build a quick workflow that just prompts me with all the questions I know she needs answered. I fill it in, and it just posts a message to her in Slack. Super simple. You didn't need to spend weeks figuring it out. I built the workflow in about 5 minutes, and I've made her life tremendously easier, and the communication back and forth when she's frustrated. So just start small. And then the other side is have a look at things that exist already. So we have an app directory, for example. We have 2,500 apps in there, and that gives you a sense of other tools that exist. But I think over time, as people build confidence in it, because we really do see this as an empowerment bottoms up thing, not a top down big program, is that you'll start seeing more opportunities to automate. You'll see more capabilities that you can leverage to do more automation. And we also lean into our, Slack has built a bunch of admin controls around data and things like that to make sure your data doesn't go right, or that you've got the right policies in place. So lean into those tools. And there are other tools that have that too, but from our perspective, it'd be we've built the guardrails in place, so leverage those. But start small, build up over time, bring in more of your apps, start to see more opportunities, go that perspective. That's how we see that empowered approach of automation.
Steve, thank you so much for these insights about how Slack is, doing your processes and introducing data management into your platform. Really appreciate having you here.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much to Lenore and Steve for such a great conversation and the invaluable information that was there. Click on the link above to get access to the next session, leveraging the power of data to fix fragmented care and lower health costs, with Sachin Joshi from Evernorth and Jana Eggers from Neurologics. And remember, the more you interact with the event, the more points you're going to get some amazing prizes. So check out the leaderboard on the above tab. Next up is a conversation with an incredible duo. Sachin Joshi, SVP, Chief Data and Analytics Engineering Officer of Evernorth, a subsidiary of Cigna Corporation, talks to Jana Eggers, CEO of Neurologics, about how Cigna utilized a platform that allowed them to automatically identify situations requiring clinical attention, implementing interventions tailored to the patient's clinical conditions and engagement preferences, and providing a 360-degree visibility to patient activity, resulting in the ultimate care coordination program. If you have any questions for the speakers whatsoever, remember, utilize the type chat box on the right.
Hi, I'm Jana Eggers, CEO of Neurologics, and a 30-year veteran in the AI industry, but I'm always learning from other people that are in the industry, and I'm so excited today to talk to you, with Sachin Joshi today from Cigna about what they're doing to leverage the power of data to fix the fragmented care and lower healthcare costs. Sachin, will you do the audience a favor and introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get into our conversation?
Sure thing, Jana. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. It should be a lot of fun. I'm Sachin Joshi. As Jana said, I'm Senior Vice President for Data and Analytics Engineering for Cigna. Been with Cigna actually about 6 years in a variety of technology roles. I've had a career in technology for almost 20 years. And a little bit about myself, Jana. I live in New Jersey with my family married with 3 children. Happy to say that they're all at camp right now. And I am something interesting about myself, I like to say. And hopefully I'll be able to meet the audience and you in person to talk about this. But I ran with the Bulls over almost 25 years ago and toured northern Spain. So had a great time. Hopefully a conversation to be had over drinks someday.
I hope you're running with the Bulls isn't how you got into the healthcare industry.
You know, I was slightly injured, and it's a great segue. Cigna has a terrific, and what I'll be talking about today is Evernorth, our flagship brand that launches our health services in the industry, that services health plans, employers, other third parties, PBMs. For some of you that may not be familiar, certain flagship brands within the Evernorth portfolio are Express Scripts, which is one of the biggest pharmacies in the country, as well as MD Live, which is a leading provider of virtual care services.
So actually, this is a great jumping in point. Let's set the stage for our audience. We've all experienced that complexity in the healthcare industry. Tell us a bit more about what that complexity looks like from the inside rather than us as consumers.
Sure. Jana, great question. And the number one issue is the fragmentation from the inside looking out. I know we as consumers feel that every day when we go to get our labs done, go to our primary care physician, go to our orthopedic doctor, and go to get our prescriptions filled. Imagine trying to pull together that information to create better outcomes for our patients so that they're not having to navigate all of those various channels with the feeling of, one, they're being potentially price gouged, two, that is their whole health being considered with all of those different channels? Are those providers and different channels talking to each other? We from the inside recognize there's an ability, because we see all of that, to be able to pull it together and solve for that pain point. The other thing that we face, Jana, is our clients who are looking at it from an outcomes perspective, both for their employees or beneficiaries from a health perspective, as well as a cost perspective. Are they getting what they want and what our employees need with what we're spending? In a lot of cases, we know that's not true. And we at Evernorth are looking for those solutions and have a great one that we'll talk about today.
So that's interesting, because when we talked earlier, you talked some about you really created that outcomes-based model of care. I'd really like for you to talk about, what that means to you all when you talk about those outcomes. I mean, lower cost is a great experience about that, but maybe a few examples. And then let's talk about how you did it.
Absolutely. Great question, Jana. And what we did in our first foray into care coordination and management was to address the pain points we just talked about. We have a product called Health Connect 360, which looks at the total population from a patient management perspective to provide a view both what I would describe at a macro level to our customers, to our clients about their beneficiaries, and then at a micro level so that we can look at an outcomes-based approach that delivers better patient outcomes from a health perspective by reducing costs. And the key around Health Connect 360 is leveraging the power of Evernorth from a data perspective to be able to provide predictive modeling that allows for us to target and improve those outcomes for patients. And I'll talk about some of those examples in a moment. The key around this is to be able to not have a one-size-fits-all solution for our clients and for patients, but a customized approach for a client that allows them to, with us, measure the amount of investment and cost that's being generated to service our patients, and then comparing that to the value and the outcomes that we're achieving versus prior periods. And what that means is, in essence, different employers, as you can imagine, in different industries have different profiles and issues with their employees. And so diabetes is very ubiquitous. It's something that is common in the population, but maybe more common in certain employer segments, versus others. Heart disease may be more prominent. Behavioral, and maybe that support is different. And so what we're able to do from a total population perspective is analyze that data across medical, pharmaceutical, third-party data, claims data, which is our own, integrating with third parties, as well as digital devices and metric-based devices that people use. And with that information, we're able to generate data at a macro level around, hey, we have a large diabetic population, for example. Are we seeing trends around that? Are we seeing that they're filing less pharmaceutical RX claims and purchasing less? Because we have that information, we're able to then distinguish in that population and reach out and do outreach that then intervenes to ensure that adherence to medications or to prescriber directives are being done, or even better, be able to create a preventative sort of use case where we do outreach around glucose monitoring. If we see based on predictive modeling and machine learning concepts that we have, that someone may be at risk for prediabetes or even diabetes, we're able to do that outreach directly or through the providers so that we can intervene before someone ends up in ER, which causes much greater consequences. So as you can imagine, this improves patient outcomes, but also reduces long-term costs for our clients.
So you mentioned things like the predictive modeling and moving to preventative care. And when you start talking about that, it trends to be a technical audience. So they're going to want to know more about the technology and the platform. And I know it's an area you're passionate about as well. So I'd love for you to tell us more about that. In particular, how you shifted, a lot of people have a lot of statistics that they're running already. They had models that were running already. So tell us some more about how you move from that analysis approach into the AI approach and the technology that you use to do that.
Great question. And what we're big believers in is an iterative approach from a development perspective, having MVPs, testing and learning in market, and then building out from there. And something I'll talk about a little bit later in terms of the 3-year success and the roadmap for HC360. But in terms of the how, and you're asking a question near and dear to my heart, Jana, around the actual development and software of this. I like to think outside in, and the team, I should say it was me, it was a huge team, a cross-functional team across the business and technology that got this home, was really thinking outside in, thinking about the experience that would resonate with our clients and our patients. The UI, starting with the UX and the design, starting with the macro views of these populations that would allow us to analyze who is at risk, where we could intervene, where we could deploy preventative models and predictive analytics to get to better patient outcomes. What that starts with, though, is when you think about that UI, some of it's real time in terms of runtime ability. And what we needed was an orchestration layer and an underlying data ecosystem that could serve that information up in a way that would meet the needs at the time both our clinical operations personnel and our patients needed it. And so as we took a look at the ecosystem within Evernorth, we had a lot of great foundational pieces. But what we recognized was, while we knew that we could go with the latest technology, that might take 12 to 18 months to deploy and at a much larger budget. What we figured was we could reuse some of the existing architecture, but also do workarounds. And so an example I'll give you about that is the Teradata platform we're on would not be able to provide the same type of runtime performance that another database or another application could. And so in the interim, whereas we were moving to a Hadoop instance 3-4 years ago, we knew it wouldn't be ready. And so we used and opted for Postgres to utilize to serve as that data foundation for the UI that we had put together. Was it a long-term solution? No, but it was a relatively inexpensive approach to get our first MVP to market. And it really demonstrated the ability to be flexible, to be pragmatic, and to get something in market that did in fact resonate in year one. We were able to deliver tens of millions of dollars of savings using that short-term solution before we had our migration path to Hadoop.
So this might be a great example of the next question I had for you is, what outcome did you not think was possible, but you did end up accomplishing it? And so it may have been something in there. And then what really surprised you the most when you were building your platform?
I'd say that the surprise, we knew from the data, as you asked, we ran the analytics and said, hey, a lot is possible here. We can reach out to populations, we can make a difference. What I didn't factor in for, and we're going through the training over the last several years, is the emotional impact of the outreach. Jana, it's been amazing when we listen to the outreach recordings, when we train our personnel on how to empathetically listen and talk to folks, is how thankful, how emotional the reactions were when we reached out saying, hey, we've noticed you are not purchasing the same amount of insulin that we think you need to treat your diabetes. And folks have said, well, I can't afford it. And as you know, the cost of prescription medication is so high. I think the stat is 1 in 8 Americans defers purchasing necessary medication because of the expense and their inability to afford it. And so with our outreach and being able to change folks' prescriptions from maybe higher cost medications that were prescribed to generics, we were able to execute our program, but to do it in a way that resonated with the public and with our clients. Also, maybe it shouldn't have surprised me, but we have a 94% NPS with the HC360 product with our client base. And with that, as you can imagine, it's grown exponentially in terms of savings we've delivered and installs we've been able to execute over the last 3 years.
Sachin, what I love about what you just said is I asked you about what did you accomplish and when you were building the platform, and your answer was the emotional impact. And I think with technology, we often get I love technology. It makes me excited to talk about things like, you talk about your Teradata and your Postgres and you're going to Hadoop, and I love that stuff. I get so excited about it. But then we do sometimes forget and we forget about that impact that we're having later on. And for you to get that experience up front, where you're hearing from the call center people, I think that's fantastic. So thank you, by the way, for bringing that up as the example. And so my next question is, there's people in the audience that are facing that. Oh, please.
Oh, I was going to say one more thing. And that mission, and you talk about the technology team too often, and I'm sure you've heard it in your past, and the audience has heard it as well from our teams, is whatever happened to that application I built, whatever happened to that product we rolled out. And that feedback loop that you just described isn't just about being successful with delivering the application, it's the validation of the mission. And that inspires the team to keep iterating and thinking along with our business partners, our product partners, on what can we do next? What new benefit can we add? And something we've been able to do since launch, we launched with 6 disease states, is what we call them. And I mentioned diabetes, cardiovascular, things that all of us as patients or family members wouldn't understand. We've scaled from 6 to 16 with the platform, and moved into spaces that we hadn't anticipated because of our ability to onboard a lot of this different type of data. So it means more impact and more outreach and better outcomes for all of our patients.
So that is fantastic. And I think we're getting to, we're down to our last question because of time. But people here in the audience are facing a lot of what you faced, huge amounts of data. They're very fragmented. They don't line up well together. They're working through their own challenges about how do I power that data up? I know there's some power there, but I get stuck in the analytics or something. I'd love for you to give us 3 things that you think they should keep written on their whiteboard and keep looking back up at it and saying, have I done those 3 things this week or today or with my team? What are those things that you wish you would have looked at every day as reminders on your journey as you accomplished what you did?
I'd start first and foremost with the experience that we're trying to deliver. Think back, are we delivering something of value to our patients, to our clients, to whatever stakeholder that you have? Is that our North Star? And are we focusing on the most important things? Too often, an old colleague said, oftentimes our eyes are bigger than our mouths in terms of what we want to do. And are we looking at the most valuable things in that MVP that we can test and learn on and then deliver? So the example I'll give you is on something like HC360, when you roll it out, you obviously are scaling up and are still driving on adoption. Is reporting the most important thing at that point when you're not going to have much to report? Or can you hold off on that sort of sophisticated system for 3 to 6 months? And so the actual essence, the data, the predictive models were the most important thing, and that's what we focused on. So the value funnel and the experience. I think the second thing is around progress over perfection. We can't let perfect be the enemy of the good when it comes to emerging technologies or new products. You focus on what's going to deliver the most value, you iterate through it, and if you need to, you take new data and based on, when I say data, information coming back on the product feedback, and you pivot. It's okay. It's okay not to be 100% right, especially when it comes to new product development. And so focusing on progress is much more important than the perfection around the technology. And I think my example around Postgres and Teradata was one of them. And then finally, be vulnerable. At the end of the day, the teams, and it's one team, one dream here at Evernorth and at Cigna. It's not about just the product team throwing requirements over the wall to the tech team. It's one team that isn't going to be perfect out of the chute, and every idea is not going to be a home run. What you need to do is be vulnerable, admit kind of what's working, what's not working, and continue. The buzzword today is, I guess, iterate, is to iterate from that point of view so that you're constantly getting better.
So that is fantastic. Sachin, again, thank you. Your points on iterating, get to an MVP, make sure you stay focused on the experience. That's what really makes AI sing. And then you added in that, make sure your team feels that experience that you're trying to drive. Make sure that they know to be vulnerable and to try things. And it's okay to go with that middle ground because you're not always going to get perfection. So you gave some amazing advice here. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks, Jana. It's great being here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris D'Agostino, the Global Field CTO for Databricks, and I'm excited today to moderate a panel with both Patrick Baginski and Errol Kuhlmeister. Patrick is the Senior Director of Data Science and Data Analytics at McDonald's, and Errol is the AI and Data Advisor at the AI Framework. And so today we're going to be talking about lessons learned from McDonald's and Databricks, as well as the AI framework, about using amplified intelligence, AI, and machine learning to drive smarter customer experiences. So why don't we kick things off with Patrick, if you could give the audience an introduction to yourself, and then we'll turn it over to Errol.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. So Patrick Baginski, I lead the data science team at McDonald's. Started here about 3 years ago. We started very small, really from scratch, to be honest. It was about 4 or 5 people. We've now grown to well more than that. And before that, I was working as well as a data scientist, as well as an advisor in the space to Fortune 200 companies on how to build data science and data analytics teams, as well as worked for a little bit in the product management space, particularly for artificial intelligence as well.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Patrick. Errol Kuhlmeister. I currently founded and running the AI framework, where I advise large-scale enterprises on how to implement and scale up AI in their organizations. So up until recently, I was the head of AI for H&M Group, where I built up the team from basically 0 people to 150 people, no models in production to hundreds of models in production, making sure that H&M was really an AI-first type of company with all core operational decisions amplified by AI. Prior to that, I worked several years as a lead data scientist for Vodafone Group in the UK with the global responsibility. And before that, I spent about 10 years in banking, setting up different teams for analytics and AI at scale.
Great. Well, so I've got 4 questions to try and cover in the panel today, so we'll try to get through them, and it'd be good to hear your perspective. I'll try to layer in some observations that Databricks has with working with our customers, of course, and my own personal experience. But starting off, Patrick, can you describe, in terms of a little bit more detail on your background working with AI and machine learning, and what types of problems, you're focused on solving?
Sure. So traditionally, I think, especially when you start with a data analytics team or data science team at a company or a legacy enterprise that's not necessarily, let's say, a tech native or digital native, I think the most important factor is always to think top line first, and to think about the value that can be delivered from AI and machine learning projects. I would say that when the industry first started taking off, and you started seeing a lot of these teams being created in various companies, in the beginning it was a lot about, okay, we need to get ahead of this. We need to have some data scientists to make use of that asset that we're collecting as a company. I think nowadays the conversation has shifted a little bit more to, okay, we know that we can create and how to create value from that. Let's focus on the right priorities, and let's build these teams out for the longer term, right? So just from my career perspective, it's I usually start with top line type improvements. Oftentimes those can come. Those machine learning projects are in the marketing space. They can be in the supply chain space, or even restaurant operation space, right? But it's very much a conversation of, before getting started, what is the investment we're making, and what is the expected, for example, sales growth that a company would see from that, right?
Great. Errol, any perspective from you?
Yeah, I think Patrick is on to something here. And I like reading studies because it gives me direction, not just looking at my own experience, but trying to amplify and look into the market. There's been recent studies, recent. If you have a look on the MIT Sloan Review from 2019, where they looked into a lot of different companies and what they were doing, they could see companies were struggling, and they were trying to get things off the ground. And AI wasn't really giving much back. The ROI and the investment levels wasn't really what we wanted it to be. This year, they released a new study by Thomas Davenport and the New Vantage Group, where they could see that 92 of large enterprises were now doing investment in AI, and 26 of them had AI in widespread production. The market has completely shifted. I think most companies today are making some sort of effort in actually implementing AI into their organizations. So you have to look on where you are today. And my observations are there are a few clear, distinct things. One of them being building up the internal capabilities in order to be able to deliver on AI in large enterprises. That's really key. You can't start with a decentralized organization. You need to build central momentum first. You need to build your first use cases and then grow the maturity while you're rolling things out into the organization. So it needs to be led by value, and there needs to be clear proof points early on to actually adjust or motivate the investment levels that is required to transform large legacy enterprises.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're seeing with customers, and I've experienced as well, is just that, this idea of centralizing the group to create, some people describe it as a center of excellence, but to really create some consistency in the way in which you approach solving some of these problems. We oftentimes talk to customers about binning use cases in both offensive and defensive buckets to figure out, how to Patrick's point, how do you increase the top line revenue? The defensive ones are, how do you ensure that, you're protecting your data assets and, your company brand and things like that. And then, figuring out the right talent. And then, of course, the data itself plays a huge role in this in terms of the data quality. So would love to hear, in terms of how you assemble teams, what you need to think about in terms of the data, the volume of data, the data quality, the centralization of the data, if you need to have that to be successful. What are your thoughts there, Patrick?
So very good points, and I'm in full agreement with you both. I actually think that the idea of starting teams at a centralized level, even if it's starting as a small team, has a lot of benefits to it. And what I've seen in my career is that once you have a team and once you have a foundation built and you actually get to build some brand around that team, you oftentimes see the decentralized teams or teams in pockets around the company start approaching that centralized team. And pretty much like data science is a community, you start seeing this community develop in a company, and people start going, well, I saw you guys are having this platform now, or you're having this tool, or you're doing things this way. Can you help us out here? Can you help us out there? Right? So a lot of it organically starts, coming together when you start at the center. But I would also say that I've seen over the past that the one size fits all approach of launching a centralized teams and which functions to include under the idea of data analytics is not a one size fits all anymore, really, right? First of all, I think it takes a village to build good machine learning and AI solutions, and that really drive top line value. And second, I think you very much have to cater to the business model of that particular company, right? Namely, a company that has a very singular product platform, or is very centralized, or provides just a few services. It's much easier to create a centralized team covering the entirety of the data asset space, versus a company where there's already inherent in the business model a lot of decentralized decision making, right? So, if data governance, data enablement, the data science part, the analytics work, measurement, all of these different components, how they come together and where they sit, has to really be catered and to that specific company that is looking to make headway in that journey, right?
Yeah, Errol, your thoughts on that. One of the things that struck me about what Patrick said is, it started to maybe even suggest into, talking about the data mesh concepts, right? There's a big movement around data mesh, decentralization of the creation of data products and data assets. I'm kind of a advocate for thinking about the data mesh movement in terms of the policy and the goal of not creating centralized bottlenecks within an organization. But to Patrick's point, when you have a federated organization and you have the business stakeholders and the engineering and data science stakeholders in those lines of business or facing off to those lines of business, they better understand, how the data can best be used, certainly better than a centralized group. So I try to think about and encourage organizations around centralize the approach and the policies and maybe some of the tooling that you're going to select, and then enable in a federated manner the teams within the lines of business to actually do what they need to do. And wanted to get your feedback on our two thoughts there.
I think you're on to something here, even though you're not going to get me to say I'm a big fan of the data mesh concept, because I don't like too hyped up concept. I do like the general notion that the data mesh is putting forward. But in my opinion, that's just establishing best practices. When you start building centralized processes and governance just for the sake for efficiency, there are actually research that shows that you will be inefficient because you create by practice bottlenecks and central prioritizations. However, if you build central capabilities to focus on speed, so how can I speed the organization up so I can make sure that we push decision making up to the federated model or the decentralized organization? And if we start looking at the central capability as a center, not just for excellence, but for speeding and becoming more professional, how can we work smarter around this problem, not just harder? Then I think we are onto something. And what we tend to see is that we also are forgetting something big here, that all of these topics needs to be driven and prioritized by the business side. And usually centralized organizations is usually central IT or central governance or something that's a centralized cost component. The business unit is usually what I see that is decentralized, and they actually need to be on top of this. Some of the failures I've seen is when the central team starts making the prioritizations. We need to do these use cases, and it's not anchored properly in the organization. So business actually aren't aware about the central great capabilities that exist. However, if you have a central capability for speed, efficiency, processes, best practices, and support, and working with a decentralized organization in prioritization, roadmaps, use cases, you actually quite fast start seeing value deliverable. And to be honest, that's just the first step in this journey. When you start seeing those things, then you can start reprioritizing other topics for central development, for instance. But when you start building a platform as step one centrally, then you're doing something wrong.
So let's talk a little bit about what you both see in terms of organizations taking missteps or pitfalls when trying to create a robust AI ML environment and really get use cases into production. I want to circle back a little bit to the data, the access to the data, selecting the algorithms. You've got a lot of discussion in industry around citizen data scientists and enabling them versus your traditional like PhD in machine learning. Help us understand when you're building organizations that do this, and you've got the 80-20 rule of 80% of the time is spent wrangling data and 20% of the time is spent doing the algorithm development. Help shed some light on how organizations can avoid some of the pitfalls associated with these challenges.
Patrick, I'm happy to get started. Yeah. So I think one of the big challenges we've already referred to here, which is like forcing the centralization, right? I think there is a reason to say that you're establishing best practices and common platforms and common processes for the 80% of the work that an analyst or a data scientist or a data engineer does. But you really need to see this more as a community effort, and your success in building out these guidelines is based on the company and the business units adopting it, right? And so, forcing centralization is typically very detrimental to that effort, right? So that's certainly one challenge. The other challenge is the devil oftentimes lies in the detail, right? So I think we've moved away a little bit from the generalist data science team that is just going to handle all the machine learning, all the data science, all the measurement, all the analytics, all the pipeline creation and everything, towards having several different roles that are more specialized, that each play a part in the bigger picture of developing a good solution. And typically a challenge that I see or have seen is that a company needs to be very clear early on a couple top priorities of projects or use cases that make sense for a team to start off with, and that can be used to then essentially drive the adoption of those guidelines into the business units. And those use cases have to be very, very well vetted by experts for how applicable are they to the ML and AI idea, right? How well do they even serve that? And how much value will they really drive? And then you basically go use case by use case and use the work and the value you generate in order to start building out the team and providing more guidelines, right? And so I think that this challenge of like, it takes a village is also something that I've seen quite a bit. And then ultimately, as a consequence of this too, is where do all these different profiles sit in the organization? It's oftentimes another question, but I'm actually a believer of it's less important of where they sit and more important of how they work together and creating those common guidelines and platforms for it to work efficiently, right? because I do believe that data scientists and analysts should be closer to the business, and maybe ML engineers, software engineers, platform architects are maybe closer to the technology, right? So those are just a couple of my thoughts.
Sounds good. Errol, thoughts?
Yeah, so just some short notes on that. I think we are pretty aligned, but I think one of the worst thing to happen to our practice was the article that described the data scientist as the sexiest job of the 20th century, describing the unicorn, because there are no unicorns, at least not if you want to scale this model. You need to look at the processes. You need to look what jobs to be done. You need to identify those jobs. And that's the only way of scaling out. You can't scale out a unicorn. So I think that, Patrick, you lift up a very valid point on that. In addition to that, it's about building teams. So you need to ensure you have different roles in your use case teams that actually are delivering value. You need clear commitment from the business side. You need a product owner to drive these topics. You need technical architects. You're probably going to need some sort of DevOps tester, data scientists, ML engineers, because when we're talking about enterprises, usually the high value use cases are super complex, and they should be treated as software products as well, not just AI and data products. They need to follow best practices. And that requires you to think professionally about this thing, not just hire a data scientist, a data engineer, and off you go. You need to have a clear plan in place.
So Errol, I'll start with you, and we just have about a minute left, so maybe a quick response here. But we're talking about the importance of establishing a team, not really indexing on this idea you're going to find a unicorn that's going to solve all these problems magically. That it really is a collaborative effort. The business stakeholders are key enablers of getting things done, right? They understand what use cases need to be driven inside the business. And it's really then to the data science team and the underlying technologists with the infrastructure on how do we enable those use cases. What do you recommend or how do you encourage business stakeholders to involve themselves in the process in something that oftentimes is very, very technical? They don't, oftentimes don't fully understand the benefits of it. How do they demystify it? What's your recommendation there?
Hard to say. You don't know what you don't know is what I've encountered. So the business usually are not aware on how to utilize and actually do this thing. So in a lot of companies, if you're serious and if you're in a management C-suite, you need to provide trainings or support with upskilling for them to actually be able to drive it. So there's an educative aspect into actually being successful with these things. Luckily, many of the companies I work for had a central push for these things. However, when there's not a big central push, there's a lot of work in just educating the organization on how to do these things.
Yeah, great. Patrick, any quick thoughts?
So the only thing I'd add to that is that, oftentimes I've found that over the years, companies have actually gotten with their talent more technical and more data-driven. So even within the business, I have found a wealth of understanding and knowledge of the basic concepts of statistics, analytics, math, and to throw into good ML AI to the extent that it made it a little bit easier playing that translation role. But I still think that the education piece is absolutely critical, especially if you're a large enterprise that is very distributed in many different countries, right?
Yep, sounds great. Well, we're at time. So Patrick and Errol, I want to thank you both for being part of the panel. I'm sure the audience appreciates your insights and look forward to hearing from you both in the future. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for that awesome and hunger-generating conversation, Chris, Patrick, and Errol. If you'd like to learn more about Databricks, please remember to visit their profile page. The next session is a conversation with Skillsoft about weaving data and learning into the company culture. So click the above link to get access to the next session, which begins at 10:30 Pacific time. Welcome to the session From Data Literacy to Proficiency, a journey to weave data and learning into company culture. We're going to be joined by Orla Daly, CIO of Skillsoft, and Greg Fuller, Senior Director of Tech and Dev Content for Skillsoft. Orla and Greg are going to share their journey of how they launched an internal training program to improve data literacy and how that helped IT leverage data across the organization. And of course, if you have any questions for the speakers, you know where to go. Type chat box on the right. They're waiting for you and they'll be ready to chat back.
Hi, I'm Orla Daly, CIO at Skillsoft, and I'm joined here today with Greg Fuller. Greg, over to you.
Thanks, Orla. My name is Greg Fuller. I've been with Skillsoft for over 22 years, designing training programs for various different customer use cases, and happy to have this conversation with Orla today.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. So Greg and I are here today to talk to you about the importance of data literacy and creating a culture of curiosity and learning that has really become a business imperative. We're going to share with you some examples and some of the successes and learnings that we've seen here at Skillsoft, as well as what we're seeing with our customers. As we all know, data is the backbone of every organization, whether that's for driving operational efficiency or for ultimately trying to identify opportunities for innovation, opportunities for operational improvement, or ultimately getting at sound decision making. We also continue to see the amount of data growing exponentially and ultimately potentially even overwhelming us in terms of the data that is accessible to us. So learning how to manage this data has become an imperative and something that's not just restricted to a small number of data analysts or data scientists, but really something that we believe all team members need to understand. And that's why today we wanted to take some time to just share how we've been thinking about increasing data literacy, which is really the ability to understand and communicate data within our organization. And really, I guess as we think about data literacy, it is all about how we understand the data and we take that data to gain insights. And like many organizations, Skillsoft, I believe, is not alone in having challenges in terms of having the right talent and knowledge in order to be able to effectively manage our data. Last year, we saw with some of the research that we had completed that data skills are some of the most sought after or most in demand skills out there right now. And a number of IT departments in particular are really challenged with identifying and being able to acquire data skills. And this is where we really look at how do we then invest in our own employees to upskill and train and really create an environment and a discipline around learning data literacy skills that ultimately then can be brought to bear across the organization. In the last year, we have seen that on our training platform, an increase of over 35% in the amount of training that folks are taking advantage of on data-related topics. So this is something that certainly across the industry, we're seeing continuing demand and a continuing uptick. This is also, in addition, I guess, one of the areas that we're focused on to overcome some of the skills shortages we've been seeing, and how do we close some of the skill gaps? Again, something that I think is very familiar to many of our customers. So over the course of the next 25 minutes or so, Greg and I just wanted to share where we are in our journey here at Skillsoft and some of what we've been hearing from our customers as they tackle some of the same challenges around building data literacy and investing and training in our people to help solve for that gap. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Greg to share a little bit about his perspective on this topic.
Thanks, Orla. When we think about data literacy programs in particular, I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of our enterprise customers and help them design these programs. And one of the first reminders that I always make sure I reinforce is when we talk about data literacy, we're really trying to roll this out to the entire enterprise. And this is important to understand, because we'll have like people that are fairly tech savvy, we'll have marketing, we'll have finance, we'll have HR learners all engaged in these data literacy programs. And really the first step that has helped a lot of our customers be successful with these programs is really understanding the target learner, knowing that when we have these data literacy programs, the starting point is significantly different, across all the employees, just because they have different backgrounds. Some are a little bit more tech savvy than others. And, I think that's the first really key tip that, I always share with our customers is, really understand your target learners and understand it's not the same program that needs to be rolled out to your entire enterprise. You really want to customize it for your particular teams. I think the second big tip that has worked, for a lot of our customers is really setting appropriate expectations as well. You have to really understand how much time you're able to allocate to these programs, and you also want to make sure we set appropriate targets. Just like any other project that we're taking on in the organization, we have to make sure that the time we're able to put towards these programs, we are able to pair up with the right size of training. And probably the third big tip that really makes these programs effective is get buy-in across the organization. We want to make sure that people engaged in these programs understand what the business objective is and really why they're involved in these programs, as opposed to it being something that's forced on them to add to their already busy plate. And what really has helped a lot of our customers explode with these programs is really making that learning journey personal for them. Whether that be the style of training that we make available to them, or what part of their day they can contribute to this. And finally, these programs often are most successful when we make it part of our daily routine. Just like every day we log in, check our email, go through our different activities we need to do. Really, that training component needs to be part of that daily routine. So these are the key tips that I have found, or that's worked for many of our customers for these programs.
And I think, Greg, that certainly resonates. And as we in digital and IT at Skillsoft are thinking about how do we roll out our training program right now, data literacy, as you know, is one of the key topics that we're looking to tackle. And I think a number of the topics you mentioned resonate, because while our research has also shown that for most team members, development and personal growth is a key priority, and one of the reasons that they stay with their current employers, also one of the reasons that they look for new opportunities. We also see that a number of team members struggle to make time for training, and in a recent survey, nearly 50% of the respondents shared that they are unable to carve out time for training in addition to their day job. So being able to tie the training to relevant business problems that we're looking to solve is critically important. And I think that's something we've seen work well and is actually relatively easy to do when it comes to data, because we're all very familiar with a challenge or a problem we're trying to solve where if we only had more data or better access to consumable data, we'd be able to make better decisions. So I think this is a nice area where you can really, with helping people to think differently about the data that's available to them and ultimately develop new skills in terms of how you manage, understand, interpret, transform the data, you can have a really meaningful business impact that you can see relatively quickly. So as I think about some of the challenges we've certainly had, again, within our digital and IT organization, we have many sources of data. The data is fragmented and through acquisitions. We have different data definitions. What's a customer? And ultimately, how do we define a customer? And therefore, when we say we want a single view of a customer account, what does that really mean? We've also found that a number of our legacy systems are just not built and don't allow us easy access to data for our current business model. And therefore, that requires a lot of data transformation and data interpretation. So again, just continuing to invest in our team members to really understand the data that's available and how you transform that into meaningful insights has been critical. And therefore, having the ability to do that with some training, but then some practical experience, I think just really resonates with people. Which I think goes into maybe a little bit more, Greg, where you were going in terms of just the importance or, the relevancy of making that training more personalized and helping with defining an agenda or maybe a training program that is more driven to the individual and just some of the tools that we have that can help with that. Do you want to maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where, a lot of successful programs are really taking off right now. And I think back to my history here at Skillsoft, working with customers, designing these types of programs, and think back 20 plus years. And, what was available from a training standpoint is so different compared to today. Way back then, you'd more or less have like this templated training that you'd, give to everyone in the organization. But think about today, the quality of training is significantly better than it was back then, but also the variety of training methods available as well, everywhere from books to videos to courses to labs, mentoring, assessments, even live instruction. So there's so many options available, to organizations, which, this becomes a significantly important tool as we design these programs to really work with your team, understand what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and really make a training plan that is, unique to the individual. Because this really helps, improve buy-in, knowing that, this isn't just like the training program that everyone has to take, but this is the one that's special and unique to me. Another big thing that really helps make things personal is employing multiple modalities. And, this really is big about, keeping the whole program engaging for that, personal experience. You're not just, going on, just video after video or book after book. You really start to integrate practice pieces where we could start to demonstrate, the skills we've acquired. There's an important piece that really helps this personalization of these training programs that a lot of organizations overlook. And it's the fact that, we have to look inside. We have a lot of talent internally. So as part of this, more personalized learning journey, really try to seek a level of coaching or mentoring program that, where the learner can connect with the mentor or coach one-on-one to really help them, get over some humps as they're going through their learning journey, but also, just have that, face-to-face interaction that they could really, talk through some of the, challenges that they're facing in the space. And the other big tool to really make these learning journeys much more personal is leverage pre-assessments. Skillsoft has some excellent tools that we've launched this year to really help make these learning journeys more personal by employing pre-assessments. You're, making sure we have a much more targeted learning journey to ensure that the learners are actually taking the exact courses they need as opposed to repeating, some knowledge that they already have. And the other way to really make things more engaging and rewarding for the individuals. Coming up with some type of point scheme or some type of reward scheme as they're progressing through their own personal learning journeys. There's some type of reward mechanism. It could be something simple where, maybe it's a little bit more social where, everyone on a team has a point system where, they're kind of racing to, see who collects the most points to, some type of small incentive program for learners. I think the other big piece here is, as we're going through these learning journeys, we have to make sure we're measuring success. There has to be that constant check-in, whether it be with a mentor or coach, where the learner can either present back the skills they acquired, or there's some level of lab, hands-on activity that helps them, demonstrate that they're, acquiring the skills as they're working through these more personalized learning journeys. So these have been like some of the more successful tips, or that have worked really well for a lot of these more personalized learning programs.
No, that makes sense. And I think, as I listened to that, there was a lot of parallels that I think about just how you make learning successful. But then also, as I think and bring it back to the conversation around data literacy and how you build that within the organization. What we're also seeing, in terms of just some of the other key success factors in trying to drive towards a data-driven organization is making sure that you've got that top-down sponsorship and having the sponsorship of the senior leaders to really leverage and use the data to make decisions, which is similar to as you try and build a culture of learning, having senior leadership sponsor and make sure that that's a priority, I think is critical. And as we think about just, again, from a Skillsoft perspective, where we're trying to drive to and grow as a business, continuing to tie back how data can enable that and how better data decisions can allow us to make progress and achieve our goals. And specifically within IT, again, as I think back to the tie-in to learning, it's not just about the data, but it's the infrastructure that's underneath it. So this then ties back to cybersecurity, cloud, other, hot topics right now as we think about learning and development within our organization that are very tightly related to data literacy. Additionally, I guess, as I think about data literacy, it's also data is just one component as I think about people, process, and technology and data. And it's ultimately how the four of those come together that allows you to unlock the value and ultimately really solve for those key business problems. As we kind of move further down the road in digital and IT here at Skillsoft in particular, it's really how we bring these four elements together that we're focused on. Training is a big piece of that to just increase the awareness around data literacy, but then also being able to apply it every day and think about it in the context of the fabric of the process, the people, and the technology is a key component. So as we think about whether it's data or just continuing to build curiosity and learning within the organization, Greg, I guess, are there any other key tips or hints that we'd want to leave the audience with today?
I do want to reinforce that culture of learning piece. And really, I love what we're doing here at Skillsoft. Instead of using the term culture of learning, we're really using the culture of curiosity. And it really starts there is, really having that cultural shift that, we're not focused on just producing widgets or, executing projects on time, etc. We really want to embed that as part of our day-to-day activities. So, just like, we won't have to fill out all our spreadsheets or take time to do different activities. We really want to make sure that culture is embedded into the organization that makes time for curiosity, learning, skill acquisition, because we all know skills are such an important commodity right now. It's really hard to, hire people today. So we really want to make sure we're building skills internally. And, when we think about some programs that ultimately fail, it's really the ones that don't have that cultural shift or aren't making time, for their employees to, do their skilling.
Yes, and I think especially when we think about data, right, the curiosity element is key because you really don't know what the data is going to tell you. And I think it's having the patience and the skills to explore it is where the real opportunity is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other one that constantly want to reinforce that's worked well for all these programs is, make use of your internal expertise too. We all have either senior leaders or other individuals within the organization that have a certain level of expertise. We can use them as your mentors or coaches, or they can also help kick off a lot of these programs too, whether it be a lunch and learn session, team Zoom sessions, etc. Like, make use of the technology that's available to you. Really get these leaders within the organization to help kick off these programs. To help people understand the value of these data literacy programs, and really why it's important that everyone get that certain level of aptitude, for these bigger learning programs.
Makes sense. So with that, I guess we'll wrap up today's session. I'd like to thank everyone for joining and for attending. Obviously at Skillsoft, we are very familiar with the skills challenges and the skills gaps that we see in the industry today. And that's why we're really passionate about creating transformative learning experiences that ultimately propel people and organizations to grow together. And, as we think about those hotspots for talent gaps, data is certainly one of them. And we hope that in the conversation we had today, you were able to take away some just hints, tips, or just some thoughts in terms of how you can really apply learning in the area of data literacy in your organization that ultimately helps you build the skills you need to meet your business objectives, but then also helps to motivate and retain your talent as part of solving for that skill gap. So really creating that win-win. Please do, feel free to reach out to us at Skillsoft, or continue to follow our story on our blog or on our podcast called The Edge. We also share our customer experiences on a number of other forums like our Perspectives events, and you can find more information at skillsoft.com or on social media at Skillsoft. Thanks, Greg, for joining me in this conversation today.
Thank you very much, Orla.
Next up is a live roundtable. Click that above link to access this great conversation with George Trillo, Field CTO and Principal Data Strategist from DataStax, on architecting the right real-time technology stack. You can be an active participant, or you can just watch from the sidelines. So introverts and extroverts are taken care of. The roundtable will kick off at 10:30 Pacific.
can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities, from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like Data Robot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers?
This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to Data Robot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicate it to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities, from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like Data Robot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers?
This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to Data Robot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Wonderful, folks. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative. Keep going, baby. Still rising. Recorders on. Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities, from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like Data Robot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers?
This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to Data Robot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. Affirmative. Keep going, baby. Still rising. Recorders on. Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph Plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers?
This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Waterfall flow. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative. Keep going, baby. Still rising. Recorders on. Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. Affirmative.
Now, welcome to this session, why operationalizing data mesh is critical for operating in the cloud. This is hosted by Patrick Barch, Senior Director of Product Management from Capital One Software. And it's another great case study, so get ready for this. Please welcome Patrick to tell you all about it.
Hey there, I'm Patrick Barch, Senior Director of Product Management for Capital One Software. For the last 5 years or so, I've been helping the company transition to the cloud, and I've led product management for a number of digital experiences that help our associates find, evaluate, use, and then contribute new data products back into our ecosystem. I'm going to share today a few topics. First is, what are some challenges that we had scaling the cloud data ecosystem? Next is, how do those challenges apply to data mesh, which is a hot topic these days? And then finally, what are some examples of how we've applied those principles internally? Capital One has always been on the forefront of using data and technology to create differentiated experiences for our customers. We've always been on the leading edge of modernizing our infrastructure, delivering via Agile, and embracing open source. Then about 6 years ago, we declared that we were going to shut down our owned and operated data centers and go all in on the public cloud. We spent the next several years modernizing our data ecosystem for machine learning, and we completed that journey to the cloud in 2020. But I'm going to take a step back and walk you through some of our key learnings from going on-prem to a scaled, well-managed data ecosystem. And the context under which we're doing this, moving to the cloud creates an environment that has way more data that's coming in from way more sources being stored in way more places. And all of your company's users are demanding access to all of that data via self-service in the tool and format and consumption pattern of their choice. That's all happening against a backdrop of patchwork privacy legislation that's popping up all over the world. How do you manage something like that? And oh, by the way, you have to get this right because, pick your phrase, data is the new oil, data is the new gold. At Capital One, we say data is the air we breathe. Companies are recognizing that the key to success in today's tech-driven landscape is making use of their data. So, no pressure. Early on in our journey, we decided to invest in applying product management and user-centered design to our data ecosystem to help us think differently about these challenges. And so we started with, who are our customers? Who are our users? What are they trying to do? What are their challenges? And what we found is you've got the people responsible for publishing high-quality data to a shared environment. Downstream of those people, you've got the analysts and scientists looking to use that high-quality data to make high-quality business decisions. You've got teams focused on data governance and risk that are worried about defining policies and enforcing them across the enterprise. And you've also got teams that are responsible for managing the underlying infrastructure that powers all of those use cases. This diagram is actually oversimplified. These aren't necessarily unique people. These are more modes of operating that a single person might adopt in the course of doing their job. And so, for example, you might be a data analyst who creates a new insight in something like a Jupyter notebook, and now you want to publish it back to the ecosystem for others to use. When you have all of these people operating in all of these modes, there is a lot of room for miscommunication and error with those people trying to get their jobs done. And so companies will invest in lots of different kinds of tools for these various user groups. And your company might invest in several point solutions to solve for some of these user needs. And so it's common for a single person to have to hop between 6 or 7 different tools and processes to complete a simple task like sharing a new data set or finding data. And by the way, this list isn't complete or as neatly aligned as it's shown here. Catalogs these days are being marketed as both data search and discovery tools as well as data governance tools. Data protection is actually a suite of tools to scan and discover sensitive data in the clear and tokenize or encrypt or handle anything that's unprotected. And so your company, you might take all of these tools, you might piece them together, and when it's all said and done, your ecosystem might look something like this. Now, before you start taking screenshots, I just want to warn you, this doesn't work. Why doesn't this work? Well, let's take a look at our data producer on the left here. In order to get their data from the left-hand side of the screen into the middle, whether it's the data lake or the data warehouse, and do it in a well-managed way, they have to hop between a catalog, a data quality tool, a lineage tracking tool. They have to protect that data with the right entitlement. They have to make sure anything sensitive is tokenized or handled appropriately. They have to get the underlying infrastructure provisioned by maybe shoulder tapping a DBA. And then what happens if changes are required or you have a data quality issue? How do you find and notify the downstream teams that are using your data? And so scaling this ecosystem gets extremely complicated for both your engineering teams that have to build and maintain these integrations and your users that have to navigate across this placemat. And so that brings us to data mesh. I'm assuming you've heard of this framework because you're listening to this session. Data mesh it's a set of principles. It's an operating model that companies can adopt that's intended to help them scale a well-managed cloud data ecosystem. And so for me, the heart of this thing is treating data like a product. And once your company makes that mindset shift, and it really truly is a mindset shift, the rest of these principles fall into place. You need to understand how to organize all of those products, and you need to figure out the right capabilities to enable self-service across a variety of factors. This term data mesh was invented or coined in 2019, and it really started to gain traction in 2020, which was right around the time Capital One was pulling the plug on our very last data center. And so data mesh came out too late for us, but when you look at how we approached our data ecosystem, the similarities are pretty striking. We approached scaling our ecosystem really through two prongs. Centralized policy tooled into a common platform that enabled federated data management responsibility, put more control into the hands of the teams that were closest to the data itself. And so I'm going to spend some time on each one of these prongs. The first thing we did was break our lines of business into discrete organizations and units of responsibility with hierarchy. But we didn't force the same level of hierarchy on all of our lines of business. Our larger organizations were broken into like 3 or 4 levels, whereas our smaller organizations really only required 1 level. But each organization had the same set of roles supporting it. Performing data stewards are responsible for the risk of several data sets within their org. Managing data stewards are responsible for the risk of all data sets within a particular business unit. And then each line of business has a data risk officer who's responsible for the entire thing. These aren't dedicated roles. These roles are side of desk, and every one of those people also has a day job. The next thing we did was define common enterprise standards for metadata curation. And our big learning here is that not all data is created equal. As a bank, of course, we always need to know where is all of our data, which of that data is sensitive, who's responsible for it. But data that's used in regulatory reports requires a different standard of governance than temporary user data or staging tables. And we made sure that our metadata policies reflected that reality. Likewise, we had different data quality standards for our various data sets based on their level of importance. And so data that's never shared beyond a single application only has a minimum standard of data quality enforced, whereas data that's published to shared locations requires slightly more rigorous checks. So for example, making sure the schema of what you're publishing conforms to what the consumers expect, and making sure that data is complete as it moves from point A to point B. Our most important data, though, also has to pass business data quality checks, like, for example, ensuring FICO scores are within the predefined range. Early on in our journey, every data set was protected by its own entitlement. And so it could take an analyst days or weeks to figure out which permission to request access to. And then once granted access, a significant portion of the time our users found that the data they thought they wanted was either poor quality or it just wasn't what they needed. And that process started again. And so now not only have you created this time burden for your users, but now you have all of these people with access to stuff that they don't need, and that creates risk. And so to fix that, we created what's essentially a mapping between business org and sensitivity combinations that protect all of our data. And so now you as a user can request access to, for example, all non-sensitive data in commercial, and you only need to submit a new request if you need stepped up permissions. Lastly, I just rattled off a whole bunch of, if your scenario is this, do that. And if your scenario is that, do this statements. How are our data teams supposed to remember all of that How are our data governance teams supposed to enforce all of that? And the answer is kind of easy. You have to make it easy. We surveyed hundreds of data practitioners when designing our solutions, and a key theme again and again was that the vast majority of them wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to be good corporate stewards. They just didn't know how. Our policies were confusing. They were opaque. People weren't sure what they wanted to do. And so, creative people find ways to get their jobs done. And so the question then becomes, how do you make this easy? And that brings us to our next slide. The way that you make federated data management easy is by providing your teams a usability layer for them to do their work. This usability layer is oriented not in terms of capabilities like cataloging and data quality, but in terms of jobs to be done, like publishing a new data product, finding and starting to use a new data product, protecting sensitive data, reconciling my infrastructure bill. And so now, rather than having to go to 6 or 7 different tools to publish a new data product, our publishers can complete simple workflows in this usability layer that guides them through the process. This usability layer, it talks to an orchestration layer, and that orchestration layer automatically handles updating the various systems that are required for well-managed publishing, like the catalog and data quality engine, our lineage tool, et cetera. It even goes all the way to the infrastructure layer, and it'll automatically provision new resources, whether it's an S3 bucket, a Snowflake table, a Kafka topic, on the user's behalf. And it will automatically protect those resources with the appropriate entitlement. And so the key to federating data management responsibility is really giving your users an experience that aligns to their job to be done. But that's pretty conceptual. And so now I'll walk you through 2 specific examples of how this usability and orchestration layer support Capital One's data practitioners. There's many key use cases that you're going to have to solve for as you move to the cloud. Today, we're just going to focus and deep dive into 2. The first is a data producer experience. And you may wonder why you need a data producer experience in the first place, when you can simply ask your DBA to create a new table, write a copy command to load data into that table. And, that may work at a small company where issues around data governance and scale haven't appeared yet. But at a large company, onboarding a new data set can sometimes be a month-long project. You have multiple teams that have to be consulted. There's DBAs, there's teams that manage the different tools, lots of meetings to make simple decisions. We needed to simplify this experience. And so, put yourself in the shoes of a data producer. Maybe you're a software engineer that's responsible for a business system like Capital One's credit card application system. Your primary concern is making sure that we provide the right product to the right customer. Your primary concern is not managing the 6 or 7 tools I talked about before that are required to publish your data to a shared environment. And so the journey that we've enabled for these people is shown here. And it starts with metadata capture and registration. This is where you describe the business meaning of your data fields. You configure your data retention rules and your data quality requirements for your data set. The goal is to maximize machine-inferred metadata and pair it with human validation to understand the data set's schema, sensitivity, ownership details, and additional parameters. Once this step is completed and validated, the new data set is automatically added to the catalog. We then automatically provision the S3 location or Snowflake table that will house the data, and retention rules are automatically created. Next, based on the schema and sensitivity, the producer will classify the data and help the system select the right entitlement. After validation, that entitlement is automatically applied to the data across all of the platforms where it resides. And then roles are automatically assigned to tables and views in our data warehouse. The system will automatically update any AWS IAM policies as appropriate. Next, the user configures their data pipeline by identifying the source of the data and configuring their transformation logic, at which point the pipeline is submitted for approval to the appropriate data stewards and platform management teams to ensure that everything's going to be well governed. And once that final approval is received, the system will automatically operationalize the various data governance applications. For example, create rules in our data quality engine and automatically execute them when new data is published. And the movement infrastructure, whether it's something like a Kafka topic or Snowpipe, will be automatically created for the user during this process. This entire workflow is completed via configuration. There's no code required. But for this to work, you need to have one way of ingesting data into your data platform. Otherwise, you can't guarantee governance is consistent across all of your lines of business. But that one way in also has to be flexible. It can't be too rigid. You have to accommodate the various ingestion patterns that your different lines of businesses will have. The next use case I'm going to share is showing how our risk teams collaborate with our data product owning teams through a common UI. And so our risk managers or data stewards log into the exact same interface as our other practitioners. And after the system validates who they are, they can configure specific policies around data protection. For example, what happens when a specific data element like social security number is found in the clear? Do you want to automatically tokenize or mask? Do you want to notify the owner and let him or her make a decision? Once those policies are defined, they are automatically operationalized across all of Capital One's data stores in AWS and Snowflake. And then when sensitive data is detected that's out of compliance, the owner automatically receives a notification and he or she can remediate the problem right in the UI. Then on the back end, that same risk manager or a second or third line risk manager receives proactive reports detailing metrics like data quality pass-fail rates, percentage of their business unit's data that isn't registered. They can receive an understanding of how much sensitive data their business unit is managing. CCPA fulfillment is another use case for this experience. And so a customer calls, they request that we remove their record from across all of our data stores. And we can leverage this exact workflow to ensure a fully auditable purge process. So if I can leave you with one closing thought here, it's that data mesh doesn't work unless you operationalize it through self-service. The goal is to get your data practices operating at the speed of business. And when you combine common tooling and centralized policy with federated ownership, you make it really easy for your practitioners to do their job. And you transform data from something that's a bottleneck into something that really can turbocharge and power your business. So thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Patrick for such an awesome presentation. I got a lot from it, and I'm sure you did too. It was really insightful. And so were the sessions Capital One hosted at the in-person event yesterday. Thank you so much for supporting the Women in AI breakfast that took place yesterday too. Don't forget to check out Capital One's profile for more information and content.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great week so far. Thank you for joining the next webinar here from Telium called Switching to a First-Party Data Strategy in the third-party cookie apocalypse. My name is Matt Parisi. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Telium, and I'm here to walk you through today's webinar. To introduce Telium, we are a customer data platform that connects data so you can connect with your customers. We ultimately help our clients manage their customer data in a way that is able to produce a better customer experience across their entire tech stack. So real quick today, I'll be walking you through kind of some storm clouds on the horizon around how we use customer data. I'll talk about how first-party data can close the gap due to some of those storm clouds. Then I'll talk about how all businesses will have to kind of shift their strategic and technology considerations in light of these new trends and regulations around how data is used. And then I'll quickly summarize what we went over at the end. But today is all about how you use customer data to ultimately compete in the marketplace on customer experience. It's our belief that to win in today's market, you need to understand and engage your customer through data. I'll spare you a million stats to kind of prove why that's a good reason, and I'll assume we all think that that's a good idea and jump right into it, because ultimately there are some trends in the market and some regulations and changes in technology that are going to impact how we're allowed to use customer data, not only already right now, but looking ahead into 2023 when there are going to be some major changes that come down the pipe, and if you're not prepared, you might be stuck playing catch up with less options than you would have right now. So first off, what is happening right now? And I can go through the headlines and all of the different ways that the use of data has been changing, but ultimately I think the important point to take note of here is there's a lot of change happening, and it tends to be around how companies are using a customer's data without their ultimate permission. So starting with GDPR, which was a European legislation which really dropped the hammer on how companies were allowed to use customer data and gave customers a lot of rights as far as how companies use their data. Then we have technology changes like Google and Apple putting tracking restrictions in place for how the data that flows through their tools is ultimately passed to the businesses using those tools. Having more changes from Apple. We have CCPA, which is kind of a similar regulation to GDPR that has made its way over into the US, but in California. So we even have different US states having different regulations. Another Apple kind of trend here where they gave people more control over opting in or out of the data that's being collected in various apps. Same with location data. Safari getting in on the act, kind of following the trend from Apple. Chrome jumping in and ultimately announcing that they'll be restricting the usage of third-party cookies come 2023. And ultimately what this has done is this has placed a premium on trust. The companies that customers trust will get permission basically from customers in order to use their data, and that data can be used to produce a better customer experience, which has great business benefits for the company using it. All told, though, this feels like a lot. If you're a business sitting out there and thinking about how you're going to adjust to this feels like a ton. It feels like something that's hard to catch up with, and if you can catch up to it, how are you going to stay in front of it? But it doesn't need to feel that way. Ultimately, I think if you kind of take a first-party centric approach, kind of a more responsible approach, and only use the data that you have gotten explicit permission for, we can kind of take a longer lasting, a more future-proof strategy in how we manage customer data over time. And a lot of what those trends that we just talked about were about is really about third-party cookie data being deprecated. And when you think about it, what the difference is between third-party data and first-party data, it's really not too surprising that third-party data is kind of under assault here, and the way that data is being collected, because ultimately it's not data that the customer has given permission to, that it's kind of this black market of data being traded going on. And when you look at the difference between first-party data, which is the data that comes out of a direct relationship with a customer, so the customer interacting with my website, interacting with my mobile app, interacting with my email channel or some other owned channel. That is all a result of the direct relationship. It's very easy to understand how my data is being passed to a company in a direct relationship. It's only when third-party cookies get involved and my data is being traded behind my back without my knowledge that things become a little bit more dicey. So you can see here, first-party data is owned, it's reliable, it's unique to you, so it's differentiated. The experiences that you build on that data will be differentiated. There's fewer restrictions because ultimately it's a direct relationship. It's not kind of this black market, whereas third-party data is bought off the shelf. It's less reliable. It's not even as accurate. It is good for serving ads with a little bit of intelligence, but ultimately that's only one part of the customer experience that companies should ultimately be concerned with. And, you know, I'm not here to tell you the difference between first-party and third-party data. What I am here to tell you is that third-party data is kind of on the way down. You know, third-party data has likely peaked, and third-party cookie data, you know, specifically is being deprecated. And data deprecation goes beyond third-party cookies. Third-party cookies is just the one that gets all the headlines. And when you think about data deprecation overall, it's any restriction in tracking data due to regulatory, browser, walled garden, or consumer actions. So consumers could be using ad blockers. There could be regulations like GDPR or CCPA that you're trying to comply with. Browser technology itself might change. Walled gardens put restrictions on how data from the walled garden can be shared into other places, even though you're ultimately purchasing that data. So data deprecation is kind of a big deal. And if you're sitting there managing only one channel and you're like, oh, well, I can just get around it. Well, you know, this trend really impacts a lot of different departments across the company. You can think about it from the perspective of advertising, where it kind of limits the ability to use data to target people intelligently. You can think about it from an analytics perspective, where ultimately not being able to track this data limits how well you're able to attribute performance data and analyze the performance of various audiences and what's happening in the customer relationship overall. Ultimately, you need permission for that. And then just customer experiences, you know, recognizing somebody when they come back to your website, being able to do experimentation and know what that person has seen in the past to ultimately come up with a high confidence finding. So this impacts your business in a lot of different ways, and a lot of times the channel managers, you know, only see kind of a sliver that affects their channel, but it really does affect the overarching customer experience. The good news is first-party data can kind of close this gap. And I think as you're plotting your first-party data strategy, it's important not to be like these marketers in this cartoon. And what you see in this cartoon is marketers like to be creative, like to find workarounds to make their programs work. Well, in this case, these workarounds, and I think third-party cookies at one point in time were a workaround, will ultimately dictate how future-proof your strategy will be. If you're constantly trying to, you know, backdoor somebody and get around people's preferences, your strategy probably is gonna get submarined at a certain point in time. So definitely important to really honor the customer relationship and don't give up. You know, don't look for workarounds. Really, you know, start to take a first-party driven approach that really respects the customer's choices at the end of the day. And you know, one of the things that's important to realize with a first-party data strategy is it evolves over time. And the data that you're managing as part of the strategy changes over time. And ultimately, it takes a lot of coordination and integration in order to recognize the same person across kind of this whole customer journey, because of the fact that the data in each stage of the journey is going to be very different. But when somebody becomes a customer, you better believe that what they were researching early in the customer experience makes a difference for how you can, you know, cater to that customer experience. So it really is in the business's benefit to figure out how to connect all these dots. So each system is going to kind of use different pieces of data. It's going to be different systems across this life cycle. So if you think about the channels where you engage a customer, ultimately those channels are largely going to correspond with these data types across the customer life cycle. which correspond to the systems that are in your tech stack. So here you can kind of see a sampling of technology across kind of the customer journey. And ultimately, all these systems need to be integrated together in order for each system to act with the full customer relationship in mind, which is, of course, what the customer wants. The customer wants a seamless experience. They, when they're calling the call center, they expect you to know what they were doing on the website, because ultimately they were engaging with the company, and that's what they're thinking about. They're engaging with the company, not with a department within the company. So to shift over into this first-party data strategy, which sounds pretty great, there are strategic and technology changes you'll have to make. On the strategy side of things, first off, is that consent and value exchange, how you get that consent, is your front door to your customer experience. If your customer opts out from the very beginning, ultimately the rest of their customer experience is going to be worse from that point on. So it's really important to get people to come in the front door, because ultimately if you get access to that data, if it's mutually beneficial for them to share their data and you to have that data to provide a better experience, then you can provide a better experience throughout the life cycle, ultimately, creating more value for the customer and then the business as a result. Secondly, based on how well you do getting consent, you'll have to adjust your targeting mix. So the more you're able to target with your first-party data and that intelligence that comes out of it, the better you're likely to see performance. But if you only have a small pool, that means you have to figure out how to make up the rest of the gap in ways that is untargeted and does not take into account the intelligence that you have from the customer relationship. So ultimately, this targeting mix will depend on how well you do getting customers to agree to enter into a data relationship with you. And then lastly, maximizing your first-party data assets is going to be important, because that's the differentiator. No other company has your first-party data. So the more you can figure out how to use that first-party data to provide an experience that's relevant and consistent and timely, the better your strategy is going to work, and the better performance you'll see ultimately as a result. Of course, it's not only down to strategy, but it's also you need the technology to kind of support it. So number one, data collection is much more important. And I will draw a line between data collection and aggregation. If you just aggregate data, you ultimately haven't addressed the fragmentation problem. And then orchestration of data to all of those channels that we saw across the customer journey is very important, which means you need to be really good at integration ultimately. Data management flexibility is important. All of those systems work very different. Each system uses a different data point as a way to target the customer. An email system uses an email address. A CRM system might use the customer's name. A different type of system, a personalization system, might use a user ID. So something that kind of connects the dots between all of those is very important as it relates both to collecting the data and then also activating the data, whether you're activating it to power some experience or some engagement, or send it to an analysis tool. And lastly, real-time is very important. Most technologies out there do not function in a real-time fashion. Most claim that they do, so it does take a little bit of investigation and kind of proofs of concept to make sure that the data moves as fast as you need. And that also incorporates kind of how automated you're able to make this whole data process go, and how much you're able to bake ML into it, because there's so much data right now. It's pretty important to have computers kind of help you sift through it and get value out of it. So I want to spend a little bit of time on value exchange really quickly, and basically make the point of don't do this. This is kind of also another example of kind of naughty marketers out there. Kind of, I mean, in this case, they're not naughty. They're trying to follow the rules, but they're providing a less than ideal experience because of all these various things that they're trying to accommodate. And here are some examples of value exchange. So you see on the left is kind of free content in exchange for an email address. When you have an email address, and if that person gives you your email address, then that's a piece of identity that you're able to use to better tailor their experience. On the right, you have a discount in exchange for that piece of identity. Here we have some classic cookie banners. These are all bad examples. You can see all of these take up the majority of the real estate, so really impact experience. The one on the left only has an accept button. There's no deny, there's no reject button. The one in the middle, takes up most of the screen. Also already kind of has some it kind of puts visual preference on accepting all of the cookies. And you might just naturally click that button rather than trying to manage, just in the way they visually presented it. So it's a little sneaky. On the right, it says, if you read all this text, it says, if you read this or if you close this, you've opted in, which is also a little bit less than authentic. Here you have kind of a classic paywall. So give me your email address, your identity, and I'll let you read everything. That way the publisher can kind of see all the articles you read and better package you up as a segment for sale to advertisers. On the bottom, you see same kind of deal. And on the right, you see kind of a discount to get access to that person's identity data. So those are, some of those are decent examples. Here's an example that I think is kind of the Cadillac of value exchange. So this is a shoe manufacturer giving a free app to their customers. So a shoe manufacturer has turned into a software developer. And basically, if you just consider this for a little while, your shoe probably doesn't send any data to the shoe company. So all they know is when you bought it and the average amount of time it takes for somebody to go through their shoes. But if you were to download this app and kind of have a richer running experience, so you're providing a better experience, the shoe company will know exactly how many miles you run, what type of miles they are, whether it's long distance, short distance. All of that can lead to a better experience outside of the app itself. So kind of thinking about some different ways that you can provide an experience that kind of gives an incentive, a mutually beneficial incentive for providing that experience. So remember, there are, kind of strategic and technology changes. And you have to do this across channels and teams and over time. So individual departments within the company will all be trying to do this at the same time. So in order to take a first-party approach, it's all about building that customer profile. That customer profile becomes the foundation of your first-party centric approach. And it's not only about kind of the data points that come from each individual channel, and you can see a lot of different channels represented here. Doesn't have every single channel represented. There are more that you could incorporate. But it's not only about each individual data point, it's about blending those data points to define things like VIPs and people who are fans of certain products or types of products, to ultimately group up your customers and provide a better experience across your entire tech stack. And the last point I'll make before I summarize everything here is that it all depends on collection. So collection is the is the thing that first unifies all of this data into a single place. So if you get really good at kind of unifying data collection, that goes a long way towards solving the fragmentation around the business, to ultimately come up with these insights that you see in the middle about this particular customer, with what they're interested in, the level of customer they are, and even predictive insights provided by machine learning, because you have that customer data kind of centralized in one place. So to summarize, for adopting your own first-party data strategy, privacy is step number one. So thinking about how you're going to have a value exchange to create that mutually beneficial data relationship. Second, become browser independent, audit your technologies to figure out which ones are using third-party cookie data, which ones where that intelligence is going to go away, is going to impact things. And you might want to pick up kind of a first-party data technology, something like a CDP that helps, kind of unify this technology. Adapt your data collection strategy in favor of stronger value exchanges. So data collection is really important. It's not aggregation. Remember, aggregation means it's already been collected and you're just centralizing it. Kind of unifying data collection is even better than that. Fourth, double down on identity. Identity is kind of how you connect the dots between all of those systems. And then lastly, based on how well you're able to present a value exchange and get consent for using customer data, reevaluate your targeting mix. In the meantime, how much first-party driven kind of targeting can you do? And then the rest you can fill in with other means like contextual targeting or other strategies that you might have in your toolbox. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for the time. I hope you all found it useful and hope you all take your own first-party data strategies to the next level. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for today's summit, focusing on data architecture. Remember to check the leaderboard, see where you are, and see if you're in with a chance of winning a prize. The more you interact with the event content, the more chance you have of winning. Simple as that. We made it nice and easy for you. And if you would like to network with attendees, please go to the networking tab and chat and set up meetings. Tomorrow's content will focus on data governance. We're looking forward to some amazing conversations with Pascal Hoots, Chief Data Officer of American Express, Hal Stern, VP and CIO of Janssen R&D, and Patrick Barch, Senior Director of Product Management from Capital One. So, until tomorrow, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. Affirmative. Keep going, baby. Still rising. Recorders on. Keep going. Look at it go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.